Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation on the external factors affecting Microsoft Corporation. My name is Matthew Hand, and I'll be guiding you through the remainder of this presentation. Now, the purpose is to highlight in detail several negative external factors that have affected Microsoft over the last 4 years and lay out what kind of impact that they have had on the company. Now, these issues include the competition. This includes competitors such as Google, Apple, Yahoo, Sony, and Nintendo, as well as several lawsuits, and this would be about Microsoft Office as well as Microsoft's Xbox Live service and Microsoft Points. Now, I came to most of the information in this presentation from Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and Dow Jones Factiva. I arrived at these resources from the Eastern Michigan University Library. Now, the competition would probably be considered one of Microsoft's main negative external factors. Now, this would be Microsoft versus search giants such as Yahoo and Google. Now, Google and Yahoo both started off as search databases and have grown significantly within the past decade or so, and this is because of the expanding nature of the computer industry. Microsoft was always the underdog in the search database category with its MSN and Windows Live searches. In 2008, Microsoft had feared a potential merger between both Google and Yahoo because it would consolidate over 90% of the search advertising market in Google's favor. Now, in order to combat this, Microsoft released its Bing search database, but instead of calling it a search engine or a search database, Microsoft actually refers to it as a decision engine. And this way it can actually combat Google directly by asking, what has search overload done to us? Now, another large area where Microsoft has some great competition would be the video game industry, and this includes competitors such as video game behemoths Sony and Nintendo. Now, Nintendo dominates in overall units sold, with Microsoft in second place and Sony in third. Now, if you look at this chart right here, you'll notice that Nintendo's Wii is actually in first place with overall units sold, and that's at 68.91 million. Microsoft Xbox 360 is in second place with 38.72 million units sold, and PlayStation 3 is in third place at 33.04 million units sold. Sony claims that Microsoft will ultimately fall behind Sony because Microsoft keeps peddling add-ons, which is disadvantageous to the consumer because they have to keep buying more and more accessories and add-ons in order to make their system up to date, while Sony claims that their PlayStation 3 is up to date right out of the box and requires no additional spending, which keeps money in consumers' wallets. Now, this is very unlike just short of a decade ago, where Sony had its PlayStation 2, and that greatly outsold Microsoft's original Xbox. Microsoft's largest competitor would probably be considered Apple. Now, Apple is seen as having a large advantage because of its ease of use and intuitive interface. Microsoft Windows has always been seen as somewhat bland and confusing, while Apple's can generally be seen as very pleasing and easy to use. Now, as far as the overall physical attributes of, say, a personal computer or a Macintosh computers go, Macintosh are usually seen as more aesthetically pleasing. They include nice high-definition 20-inch LCD screens, all integrated within the computer itself. Now, this looks good inside of any college dorm room, or even gives it a contemporary look inside of, say, maybe someone's living room, while PCs have always seen as very business-like, somewhat utilitarian, with a traditional monitor as well as a tower next to the monitor, which does nothing more than hold the hardware of the computer. Now, as far as operating systems go, Apple has one, and of course Microsoft is famous for its Windows operating system, and Microsoft was always dominating the operating system segment, but that's not so much the case anymore because of Apple with their Mac operating systems, as well as Google. Now Google is entering the scene with their operating system. Now a big difference between Microsoft and Google is for a new version of Windows, this is going to run purchasers or customers about $299.99 for a new operating system, while Google, which is web-based, and it's actually free. So that's a huge advantage to Google over Microsoft. And this is actually where a lot of consumer demands are shifting from having to pay to having something for free. Now this isn't only in the operating system category, but also within categories such as Office products like Microsoft Office. Google is actually going to offer their Office, which is web-based once again, but it's going to be free, while Microsoft charges upwards of $700 for their entire Office package. Now, and this is somewhat unfortunate for Microsoft, especially because of their recent reputation with Windows Vista, which was ultimately seen as a failure. Now, the final negative external factor affecting Microsoft would be lawsuits. Then we have Microsoft Office. Now, a court actually ordered that Microsoft would have to stop selling Office products because of patent infringements unless changes were made. Microsoft made those changes, but unfortunately it led them to a $290 million fine, but customers can still purchase Word, which actually is part of Microsoft Office. The second lawsuit involves Xbox Live, which has millions upon millions of users, and there was a class action lawsuit recently filed against Microsoft and Xbox Live because Microsoft's Xbox Live uses a point-based system and sells points in batches that frequently don't correspond with the number required to buy particular items. Now, unfortunately, what happens is customers have leftover points that ultimately remain useless. So a class action lawsuit was filed against Microsoft because, according to an attorney, Microsoft engaged in a scheme to unjustly enrich itself through its fraudulent handling. Unfortunately, with this as well, it affects Microsoft's reputation because both of these lawsuits were actually greatly covered by the media, and even though somebody viewing this may not actually be a customer of Microsoft, they see exactly why Microsoft is being sued, and this, unfortunately, is not positive coverage. If anything, it puts more of a negative taste in consumers' minds. Now, as far as the conclusion goes, Microsoft has had numerous negative external factors to deal with, and to be honest, in the last 4 years, it's been quite a headache for Microsoft. However, Microsoft has paved the way for itself and its competitors in the computer industry. Microsoft has also made personal computers easily accessible, user-friendly, and cost-effective. And Microsoft has created the computer spectrum from professional to personal use worldwide. Computers were very complicated, and people actually couldn't afford them until Microsoft came along with this Windows-based interface, and this made everything very easy and actually made using a computer very convenient for the customer and cost-effective as well. So, in turn, Microsoft will always be well-respected and a leader and a dominant force to be reckoned with within the computer industry. So thank you very much for viewing my presentation. Of course, I'm here to take any questions, and if you have any, feel free to let me know.